Hello, we are doing another declutter today and I'm so excited. So we're going to go through all of my foundations, concealers, primers, powders, and setting sprays today. About a month or two ago, I went through all of my blushes, bronzers, and highlighters in a declutter, and I'll link that down below if you want to check it out. But what I found was really helpful for me is to actually go through and swatch every single product to really get a feel for the formula and shades. So I'm going to do that today as well, especially like with my concealers, because there's so many different colors in here, and foundations. Like everything will be swatched today, even the loose powders. So let's get started with this declutter. I'm going to start with concealers. So like I said, I'm starting with 17 concealers, which is just way too much in my opinion. And already just looking at this, there's a few that I want to get rid of just because I know I don't like the formula and I just don't see a point in keeping something if I know I'm not going to use it. And I'm not even going to waste my time swatching these ones because I know I already don't like them. So starting with the Makeup Forever HD Skin Concealer. This concealer was sent to me in PR, but I find that it just doesn't have the coverage that I like under my eyes. The shades are also a little off because again, I did get it in PR and I have more formulas in my collection that I just like a lot more than this. These two are going to be decluttered. Okay, with those two put aside, now I'm going to swatch all of these on my arm. Okay, so I went ahead and swatched all of these concealers that are in the bin right here. This first one being the Urban Decay Quickie Concealer, and going down that way is that way, if that makes sense. But I also decided another one I'm going to keep just straight off the bat is my NARS concealers. These are my Project Pan and I depotted them into this little Sigma duo case here. So in here are the NARS Soft Matte Creamy Concealer in Vanilla and Custard. I got two shades and this is one of my favorite concealers ever for spot concealing. As you can see, I'm almost done with this. So I know I'm going to keep this in my collection, so I didn't swatch it, and again, it is in my Project Pan. So that one is for sure a keep. And I'm also going to swatch these Natasha ones separately just because I really need to go through those shades kind of on their own because I already know I love this concealer. Actually, would this be more helpful that way? There we go. That makes more sense. Looking at all the concealers swatched this way, there kind of is a big range of shades here. I do self-tan and I am pretty self-tanned right now if you can't tell by my orange palm. And I do self-tan mostly throughout the entire year, but straight off the bat, this Sephora Best Skin Ever one is this like almost white shade right here. And this one has always been way too light for me, even if I'm not self-tan. So I'm gonna go ahead and declutter this one. This is a shade 3P. Okay, but I'm actually gonna like flip it backwards so I know I'm decluttering it so I don't like mess up my order here. But I really do love this Sephora Best Skin Ever concealer. This was my favorite concealer of last year when it launched. Like I literally could not stop using it. So then these are the other two shades right here. So the first one is 08Y. And then this one I think is, yep, 11.5P. And they actually look kind of similar on the skin. I do tend to use the 11.5P shade more. So just because of that, and because this concealer has been in my collection for at least a year, I'm going to go ahead and declutter the 8Y shade just because I don't think I'm going to get use of it much, and like I would like to use these concealers, you know what I mean? So I don't need two of the same exact one if I'm trying to finish it. So I'm going to keep the 11.5P shade. Let's move back up here a little bit. So we have the Urban Decay Quickie Concealer, and I have gone back and forth on this concealer so many times on whether or not I want to declutter it. I just think this concealer is a little too thick and a little too drying on my skin, and I do have more normal to dry skin. I also find that this shade just isn't quite right for me no matter what shade my skin is. I do have the color, I think it's, yep, 20 CP. I've even tried to use this as an eyeshadow primer many times and it does work pretty well for that, but this is just such a big thick concealer and I have other eye primers that I like to use, so I think I'm finally gonna declutter this concealer. I'm gonna flip it this way because I'm decluttering it. Second swatch right here is the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Concealer in the shade Fair 20N. Now I do really like this concealer. I think it's one of the best drugstore inexpensive concealers I have ever used, and this shade actually does work pretty well on me when I'm fair, so I am gonna hold on to it. Now this third swatch right here is this Pacifica Dream Lit Glow Concealer Corrector. What is the shade? And the shade is 9, and this is a pretty deep shade. It would probably be best for me if I'm just kind of doing a spot concealing. It'd be way too deep for under my eyes, but honestly, I have not really wanted to test this concealer just straight up. Like I've had it in my collection for a few months, but every time I go to use it, I just want to grab for something that I know I love. So I just don't really see a point of hanging on to it if there's other concealers that I like more and would prefer over this one. So I'm going to declutter it, as I've already decluttered 4 concealers. No, I've decluttered 6. Oh my gosh. Okay, now I'm going to go from the bottom here. So this one down here is the NYX Bare With Me Serum Concealer. Now I recently did a video with this where it was a full face of makeup I might declutter Declutter, and I tried this as a foundation all over my skin, and it was beautiful. I've seen a couple people use this concealer that way because I wasn't really liking it under my eyes, but all over as a foundation, I was super impressed with it, and I think it'd be kind of fun to finish this up in that way, or like this would be so good as like a travel size foundation, and the color is pretty good for me, so I am gonna keep it. Second to bottom one is the LYS Triple Fix Full Coverage Brightening Concealer, and I have the shade LN6. Now, out of the other concealers I have, like if I were to tell you right now, my favorite is the Natasha Denona one. Like this is the best. And this one's pretty good, but I don't really think it's full coverage. I would say it's more of a medium coverage, but it is really, really easy to blend out. And I've been using this one recently to carve out my brows for like just a really soft carve, so I am gonna hang on to this one. And then these next two concealers are the new Tower 28 concealers. So this third swatch right here is the shade CC. This one looks to be a little more yellowy to me. And this fourth one up is the shade DTLA that leans a little more neutral, I would say. But honestly, both of these shades under my eyes work pretty well, so I kind of use them like interchangeably. But I have really been liking this concealer under my eye. It's more of a medium to full coverage with a beautiful natural finish. It's actually really similar to the Natasha Denona one, so I am going to hang on to these. The ones I am decluttering are these two from Sephora, the Pacifica one, and then the Urban Decay Quickie. So I'm going to set those aside with the Makeup Forever. Now I'm going to go swatch these Natasha Denona ones. Hopefully I can narrow it down to maybe 3 shades because I definitely don't need 5 shades of the same concealer. All right, here are all 5 shades of the Natasha concealer that I own. I have R2, N3, RN3, N5, and P5. So the reason why I have so many of these, let me just tell you, is that she sent me these concealers in PR and I was so dang excited, but the problem is that she sent me every single shade, and there was probably, I want to say like 25 concealers in that box. And when I went to go through the concealers, like I tried not to swatch them so I can donate the ones that are unused, right? So I donated as much as I can, the ones that looked like they weren't a right shade for me, but I kind of ended up with these 5. But looking at all these shades I have, I immediately need to get rid of this last one at P5. This is just way too peachy for me. I think it might be meant as more of an under eye corrector, but I still think it'd be too deep because where's my, like this is my Sigma color corrector that I use under my eyes. Well, I don't know, is it similar to this deep shade? Because I'm running low on this. No, Natasha's still deeper. So like I was trying to see if maybe this would work as a corrector once I do finish this, because this is my only under eye corrector and I am running pretty low, but that would still be too deep as an under eye corrector. So I am going to declutter this shade P5. Okay, now we're left with these 4 right here. This shade N5 is like my perfect spot concealing shade. Again, I do use that NARS concealer most of the time to spot conceal, but because I'm running so low of that, I am going to keep N5. RN3, which is this swatch right here, is the one that I use the most under my eyes, so I am going to keep that. I do like to use R2 under my eyes when I'm fair, so I am going to keep that. So that leaves us with N3, which is this shade right here, which actually like looks pretty good for my skin, and part of me is just telling me to keep it because I love the formula, the color works for me, but I'm like, do I really need 4 of the same concealer? I think I'm going to keep it just because I am decluttering so many. So I'm going to keep these first 4 shades of the Natasha concealer. So these are all the concealers that I am keeping in my collection, and these are the 7 concealers that I'm decluttering, so I feel super good about that. I'm so happy to get rid of 7. Now let's move on to foundation slash skin tints. I just kind of put these all into one category, so I currently have 14. First I have to talk about the Urban Decay Hydromaniac. So this is currently in my project pan, and just yesterday I think I finally cut into the tube, and there's about, I want to say like 3 or 4 more uses in this tube. Like I am trying so hard to finish this and I'm doing a pretty dang good job. But if you can tell, I have 2 other of this exact same foundation in my collection, and I do not need these. The shade I've been working on is 30 Light, and I like to wear this shade when I'm fair, or if I am more tanned, I mix it with this Born to Glow from Too Faced, which I really, really like that combo. So I have a whole backup of this exact one. And because I've been trying to finish and pan this product since January of this year, like that's how long this has taken me, I do not need a whole other backup. So I've been holding on to this for a while because like I do love this. I love the skin tint so much, but I I honestly don't want to use a whole brand new tube of it, so I'm going to get rid of this backup and definitely donate it. And now I have the exact same foundation, but just in a deeper shade. So this is light medium, which is definitely better for me when I'm fake tan, but I do feel like it's a little peachy. I don't know. Let's swatch it. This is definitely one of my favorite skin tint / tinted moisturizers that I have, but I'm asking myself, do I really want to add a whole nother tube of this to my collection and continue to use this? I don't know. I'm gonna hold on to it for now, but we might revisit it. I'm gonna set these two aside. Okay, the Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer. This is the oil-free formula. I have the shade 2W1 Natural. Now, I have tried to put this in my foundation drawer like many times, like trying to get myself to use it, and I just don't want to use it. Like, I would rather use other things on my face, and I've tried so many times and I don't really like it, I think. There's just something about this. I don't really like how thick it is. I mean, the color's not bad. Again, this 2W1. I just feel like this is a little thick and it doesn't really sink in nicely to my skin, so I'm going to finally declutter this one and just face the facts. I don't really like it. Another foundation that is honestly just the wrong shade for me completely is this Say foundation. I have the shade 5, so I bought this pretty recently. I need to shake this up. I can't remember if I bought this in the spring or like late last year, but this is the Glowy Super Skin Foundation, and I was so excited to try this because I do love their like glowy, like the Star Gel glow thing they have. But this color is, it's way too light and way too yellow for me. Like, I can never make this shade work. And I also just feel like it sits on my skin a little bit funny. Honestly, I should have just exchanged the color once I got this, but I always feel like I can try to make foundations that aren't the right color work, but this one I cannot make work. I should have returned it when I had the chance, but I don't anymore, but I'm sure I can donate this because it is pretty new. So this one is going to be decluttered. Now, out of these foundations, the oldest one in my collection is the Too Faced Born This Way. This was my favorite foundation back in like, I don't know, 2016, 2017. I even got my mom hooked on it and she still uses it to this day. Like, this was my favorite. Full coverage, moisturizing, looks beautiful on my skin, but I just really don't wear full coverage foundations anymore. I much more prefer something a lot lighter weight, like these items right here. On the bottle it says 12 months expiration, and I've definitely had these for way longer than that. First I want to swatch these shades because like maybe I'll keep one of them. So I have Warm Nude and Golden Beige. Let's see. This is Warm Nude. I don't even know why I have two shades of this. Sometimes Too Faced will send me PR and I'll just get like a random foundation or concealer. Oh, this one's coming out kind of thick. It's a little gross there. Okay, wait, let me redo this one. Yeah, I think that color's just way too golden for me, right? Like, it just looks a little bit too yellow, almost like a little olive, I would say, and it feels kind of empty. It's a little gunky coming out, so I'm gonna declutter this one for sure. Again, it's Golden Beige. Yeah, I definitely feel like this Warm Nude is a better match for me. Now that I'm looking at these swatches, look at how different all of these shades are. Isn't that crazy? But I really haven't put this foundation on my face in a long time, so I think I'll have to try it again and see how I feel about it on my face, because a swatch is one thing, but I'll hang on to it for now. Like I said, I've only really been using my skin tints and kind of more tinted moisturizer stuff, but when I do want a full coverage, my go-to has been the Hourglass Ambient Soft Glow Foundation. Like, this is the one that I wore to the Taylor Swift concert because I wanted my makeup to last all day, so I'm for sure gonna hang on to it. I have the shade at 6.5, and I'll just swatch it for you here. This one just looks so good on the skin. It does not settle into any like little lines or pores. Beautiful coverage, beautiful finish. I'm definitely hanging on to this one. I think it's good to have like one go-to kind of more full coverage foundation in your collection. I'm definitely going to hang on to these Fenty Beauty Eavesdrop Skin Tints. I love these so much. I have the shade 2 and 5. Again, I have one for when I'm more fair and one for when I'm more tan, and my 5 is actually pretty low. I think once I do finish and pan this Urban Decay one, I'll probably try to work on this one in my project pan, but it's just such a beautiful skin tint. Has more of a blurring, kind of a soft matte finish, but even with my dry skin, I don't find that it's drying or anything. I will swatch these shades for you. So again, this is the shade 2. They did just come out with the stick version of this, which I still really want to try, and I honestly think I might. And then this is 5. It might not look like it, but 5 is one of the best shade matches I have in my collection, so I am going to hang on to these two. And now that I'm looking at all of these foundations swatched out, I think this is why it's helpful to swatch them, because this Urban Decay Hydromaniac, look at how peachy that one looks, especially compared to like the Hourglass one that I just said I love and the Fenty one. So I'm actually going to move this to the Decluttered because this is way too peachy. It would never work for my skin tone, whether I'm fair or tan. And I think this one was the Laura Mercier one, right? Like, look at how dark and just too yellowy that one's looking. This one was the Say. That one's looking so light. So it's kind of funny to see them all swatched out. So these last 4 foundations / skin tints, I'm honestly kind of unsure of them on their own, but I will say this Too Faced Born This Way Healthy Glow has been my favorite mixing foundation. So like I said earlier, this one I've been trying to pan is a little bit too light for me when I'm tan, so I just mix this with it, and it gives me the most beautiful finish, beautiful coverage. I really, really like this one by Too Faced. I like that it's in a squeezy tube. I think it's supposed to be kind of similar to like the Dior Face and Body one. It's funny because I don't really like this foundation on its own, but mixed with others, it's beautiful. Also, this color is pretty much perfect for me. I have the shade Warm Nude. And the reason why I bought this one, because again, like I said earlier, the Born This Way foundation was one of my favorites for years. So I was really into more of a like softer, lightweight version of it. And I do like it. And now the Rare Beauty foundation. This one's interesting. So I don't really think I like the consistency of it, and I also don't like the application either. I don't like having to apply this giant doe foot to my face. The shade is a pretty good match. I have the shade 210N. I don't know, it's just so liquidy and like serum-y consistency. I feel like I need to give this one another shot on my face, but look at that shade match. I am gonna hang on to it for now. Now this Hourglass Veil Hydrating Skin Tint, I've been testing out the last couple weeks, and I don't like it on its own, straight up. I've used it in a few videos now. It is way too glowy in my opinion, and I just find that it never, like, it doesn't set down. Even when I add powder on top of it, the glow is just way too much and way too overpowering, but I still kind of like it. I have the shade 5. Again, the shade match is really good there. I think what I need to do is mix it with my Fenty Eavesdrop, since this does have more of a blurring matte finish. I think these two together would be beautiful, so I am gonna hang on to this. But I'm also thinking I might like this more in the winter when my skin is feeling drier, like maybe the glow will be helpful during the winter. I don't know, we'll see. And the last one I have is this Tula Radiant Skin Brightening Skin Tint. Now, honestly, this is another one that I haven't used on my face a lot. Like, it's kind of similar to Laura Mercier, where I keep putting it in my drawer, but I would just rather reach for something over here that I do like. I believe this came out last year. You know, I like a squeezy tube, I like a skin tint. Color is a good match, and it does feel a little bit thicker compared to like the Urban Decay one. You know what? I think I will hang on to this and give this one a couple more chances on my face to really see how I feel about it. And it does have SPF 30 in it, which is always a plus. So these are all the foundations, kind of bases that I'm keeping. I mean, this one's gonna be gone within the next week. And these are the 5 that I'm decluttering. This one mostly for the shade match. This one because I don't want to use it again. Again, shade match is not good on this one or this one. This one was too light. So kind of a shade match issue here. I think that just tells me, like, when I do get a foundation, if the shade match isn't right, I either need to exchange it for a different shade or just return it. So I am decluttering these ones. All right, next let's move on to primers. So I currently have 9 primers, and this, like, 9 seems like a lot, but visually this seems very doable for me, and it doesn't feel like an overwhelming amount. First of all, I know I'm gonna keep my Smashbox Photo Finish Primerizer. This is another one that is currently in my project pan, and I'm doing a pretty good job. My goal is to get to this line right here that I made, and I'm almost at that goal, but I think by that point I'm just gonna try to finish this. This is one of my favorite just lightweight hydrating primers to wear under my foundations. Again, I do have drier skin, and I find that this just gives me the right amount of hydration that my skin needs, so definitely holding on to it. Another one I'm gonna keep is the e.l.f. Power Grip with Niacinamide. I was such a hater of this primer when it first came out, and I was seeing like everyone post about it, and I just didn't understand the hype, but I truly do get the hype now. This is a primer primer that I use if I want my makeup to last all day. Like I said earlier, I used that Hourglass foundation for the Taylor Swift concert. I wore this primer underneath because I wanted my makeup to last all night, and it totally did. So this isn't a primer that I use daily, but it's definitely one I want to hold on to for those kind of special occasions where I need my makeup to last all day. I have this itty bitty Smashbox mattifying primer that I think was like a little point perk from Sephora. I am gonna hang on to this because I've been trying to use it underneath that Hourglass skin tint that I was saying that was way too glowy, and I feel like it does a pretty decent job at mattifying my skin. And I mean, this thing is so tiny, I think I can finish it, so I am gonna hang on to it. Now, whenever I'm wearing a more matte foundation, I'll go for this Say Glowy Super Gel in Star Glow underneath. This just gives such a beautiful glow. Squirt a little bit out here. I love the consistency of this. It's almost like a little bit cooling on the face. I love the gel texture it has. This is definitely a keep for me. I've been trying to use this Rare Beauty one more. This is the Pore Primer, and I just realized a couple months ago that they do have an illuminating version as well. And I've used quite a bit of this, as you can see, but I don't really know if it does a good job at filling in my pores. I feel like I've used better ones in the past, like the Tarte one, the e.l.f. Putty Primer. This one just kind of feels like a basic primer to me. Like, it just doesn't really do anything special, but I also don't hate it. So I'm gonna put this like in the maybe pile. Next, I have this one by Keys. This is the Let Me Glow Illuminating Serum. I wanna see if it's similar to the Say one. I think it sounds like it should be, right? I mean, like, texture-wise, I definitely prefer the Say one. But for some reason, like, I just never want to grab for this. I also am just not familiar with this brand in general, and I feel like because of that, I just don't want to use it. And because I haven't used it in so long, I'm going to declutter it. Now I have this Urban Decay All Nighter Face Primer. Again, it's supposed to be another long wearing primer that you wear under foundations. I haven't used this one in a while because, again, I've just been using my e.l.f. Power Grip if I want my makeup to last forever. How this one feels. It does feel pretty thick, and it's not sticky like the e.l.f. one. Maybe one day I'd have to like try these primers like side by side. I don't know. I think I'll hang on to it for now and compare these two on my face one day. Now, these last two are products that I feel like I was obsessed with last year, but I just haven't reached for them at all recently. I used one of them, I think it was the Laneige one, right, in my recent full face of makeup by my Declutter, and I did really like how my skin looked with it. So it's the Glowy Makeup Serum. And it's just super lightweight. I would say it's just more of a hydrating primer, really. But it does feel really good on the skin. Now I'm gonna swatch this Glow Recipe Plum Pump Hyaluronic Serum. I think this is more of like a skincare product. It's not really supposed to be a primer, but because I have dry skin, I did like it as a primer. I mean, you're not gonna be able to see anything. They honestly feel pretty similar on the skin. And yeah, these both just feel like they're supposed to be hydrating primers. Like, they're sinking into my skin beautifully. I'm just gonna rub it all in, might as well. This one expires 2024. Okay, so I still have more time with that. Does this one have an expiration? I'm gonna hang on to these two for now and try to get more use out of them because, I mean, they do really work for my skin type and they do look nice under my foundation. I think there's a more just kind of like an everyday primer thing. I really want to try the new e.l.f. Putty Primer, the one that's in the squeezy tube, because that one looks so nice because I hated like dipping my finger into the putty primer. Okay, I'm gonna hang on to this Rare Beauty one for now because it's my only like pore filling primer that I have, even though I don't think it's the best at filling in my pores, but I'm gonna keep it for now. Okay, so I'm only getting rid of the Keys Let Me Glow one, which, I mean, I'll take 8 primers. I feel like that's good. All right, now we're gonna move on to powder. So I have all of my loose powders and my pressed powders here. I currently have 17, which just sounds like quite a lot. So let's go over these. First of all, the e.l.f. Halo Glow Setting Powder. This is probably my favorite setting powder out of all of these, at least for under my eyes. And I took out the sifter of this. This is how much powder I've left. Like, if this tells you anything, I freaking love this powder so much. This is the shade Light. Of course I'm gonna keep this, and I'm definitely gonna finish it within the next like week or so. Now I also have the same exact powder in the pink shade, which actually isn't that pink. So let me do a little swatch here for you. Like, this is not pink. It's honestly really similar to the light shade, so I'm definitely gonna keep it because, again, I love, love, love this formula, and it's so inexpensive. Those are an easy keep for me. I'm gonna kind of jump around here a little bit. Let's talk about the Kosas Cloud Set Powders. Now, this is probably my favorite pressed powder for setting my face. Again, I do have more drier skin, so I don't want like a super matte powder, but the reason why I like this is because it's so lightweight on the skin and still gives like a little little bit of a glow. You might be like, Angela, why do you have 3 of the same setting powder? So, well, first of all, I have the shade Breezy, and this is my perfect shade. And as you can see, I'm getting pretty close to the end here, but that's because the dome actually like broke off one day, just randomly. It was sitting in my drawer, like I wasn't even traveling, and the dome just popped off, and I was so upset about it. So I'm almost empty of this, which I'm not happy about, but I am going to finish this shade and I do love it while I have it. And then I have the shade Comfy. Now this one I believe is too deep for me. Okay, again, an issue I have with this is just the packaging. This breaks off almost all the time and it's so annoying. Okay, so you can see the dome here. And see, it's just too deep for my skin. Like you should not be able to see a powder like that. So this one I am going to declutter, and the packaging is broken, so it's just kind of trash at this point. And then the last shade I have is Airy, which is actually lighter than Breezy, which is the one I like again. So this one's like almost brand new, and I really like this one kind of under my eyes, or just like blended with my under eye powder. So that one blends in pretty well. Yeah, so I am going to keep Airy too because like I said, again, I'm pretty much out of this one. I have 2 minis of the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finishing Powder, and I do really like this powder. I have the shade 1 and 2. 1 is for when I'm more fair. Clearly I have pan on this. I do love this powder. I use this powder on days where I want more of a fuller coverage look, so I'll use my like full coverage Hourglass foundation with this on top, and that is like bulletproof for me. I love that combo. And I've definitely learned to just buy the mini sizes when I can because it takes me forever to go through products, so I'm glad that I have these in a minis, and I'm going to keep both of them. I have this Bare Minerals Original Mineral Veil, and I was trying to give this powder a shot, and I just don't think I like it. I just don't really have a purpose for this because if I want a pressed powder, I'm going to use my Kosas one. Like this, I just don't really feel like it does anything for my skin. I don't really enjoy using it, so I am going to declutter this one. I do have this Too Faced powder foundation. Again, you can clearly see I love the Born This Way line. So this is the multi-use complexion powder in the shade Nude. I don't know actually how well this shade matches me. And I feel like I would use this powder really similarly to the Charlotte Tilbury one. The color just looks a little bit too pink for me. I feel like it's making my skin look ashy, so I am going to declutter this, and I don't really think I enjoyed using it on my face anyways. Now I need to swatch these 5 loose powders. I would like to get rid of maybe 1 or 2, and I'm actually going to swatch them on my tattooed arm here because I feel like that kind of shows like the texture a little bit better. So this is the Sigma Soft Focus Setting Powder, and I do like this one. I've been trying to use this powder more like in my pores areas, and I feel like it really does kind of mattify and blur my pores, and it sinks into my skin pretty nicely. Next is the classic Laura Mercier Loose Translucent Powder. I feel like you either love or hate this one. See, this one, I feel like I can see it sitting on my skin. You're not going to be able to tell on camera, but in person, like that Sigma one just kind of sunk right in. And this one, I feel like I can see weird things. It just looks kind of drying, I feel like. I'm gonna swatch all of them before I decide. So next is this Hourglass Veil one. This is probably my least favorite packaging because I like to tap my powder into the lid and swirl it around, but you can't do that with that lid because there's like this weird dome shape in here. But I do think this powder is really nice. I guess maybe, what I could do is like once I finish that e.l.f. powder, which is like gonna be tomorrow, maybe dump that powder in there if I can. That would be a good idea. Okay, anyways, let's swatch the Hourglass here. This one feels like really, really slippery in a good way. And again, this is gonna make my tattoo look a little ashy, but I am liking the feel of that a lot. Next is this Anastasia Loose Setting Powder in Vanilla. First of all, I just hate how big this thing is. Like, this just takes up so much space, and I feel like for that reason, I never wanna grab for it. All right, let's take a dollop of that. Ooh, again, I feel like this one is kind of showing some dryness in my skin, similar to the Laura Mercier one. Can you see that? That doesn't look good on my skin. Okay. And then my last loose powder is the original RCMA No Color Powder. Now, this was one of my favorite powder for under my eyes for years and years and years. I've actually finished one of these before, but I haven't used it in a while just because I've been using that e.l.f. one a lot. But this is another one where I just don't really love the packaging. Like, it's just annoying having to open this shaker thing. Like, I never use this part of the lid. Like, what am I gonna shake that into? I don't know. Like, the packaging's just kind of annoying, but it really is such a beautiful, lightweight, so finely milled powder. Okay, so after going through those 5, my least favorites were the Laura Mercier and the Anastasia. I feel like straight up that tells me, like, do you see how dry my arm is right here? That just like showed all of my dry spots. And if that's gonna show that on my arm, that would definitely show up on my face. So I'm gonna declutter these 2. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to get rid of some loose powders, especially this giant bulky one. So yeah, I really like the Sigma one, and I like my game plan of trying to depot this into the e.l.f. powder once I finish that. And then I gotta keep this one, it's just a classic. Next I have this LYS Triple Fix Translucent Setting Powder. The shade is Resilience, which is their translucent powder. Now, this powder isn't really amazing to me in any way. Like, it really just feels like a basic face setting powder, which sometimes is what I want. If I want to be a little more matte looking, I won't use this one and I'll just use this one. Not that it's like a mattifying powder, but because this powder still shows the glow through your skin, I feel like this one just kind of mattifies my face a little bit more. But again, I don't really love it. I'm not obsessed with it, but it is really new in my collection. I just bought it a couple months ago. It looks good on my skin, so I'm gonna hang on to it. I'm not obsessed, but I like the triangle. And then these last 2 powders are the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder. So I have the shade Luminous Light here, looks like that. And then this is a little trio that has dim light, incandescent light, and radiant light. So I got 4 different shades here of the Hourglass powder. It really has been a while since I've used this powder like all over my face, and I kind of want to try it again. I remember really liking it, and I just haven't done it in such a long time, but I do use this light shade from this palette quite a bit. Like, if my under eye is just looking really dry and my powder just didn't set my concealer right, I'll put this on top and it kind of like hides the mistake by adding a little bit of a glow, but not like a highlighter-y glow. Let's swatch out these shades here. Just because it's been so long since I've used this. Oh, it just glides right on. Hourglass powders really are so nice. I know they're coming out with their new holiday palettes, and like they're so pretty with like the owl, there's a snake and a jellyfish. And while those palettes are really tempting, it takes forever to finish an Hourglass powder. I've been working on the Hourglass bronzer in my project pan, and it took me so freaking long to hit pan on it. Yeah, so this deep shade I don't really ever use. I think I've used it as like eyeshadow, as like a little shade in my crease. This one's definitely my most used, and I want to try this all over my face again, so I'm gonna hang on to these. So these are all the powders that I'm keeping. Again, this Kosas one is almost empty, so is this e.l.f. one, so these will be gone pretty soon. And then I'm decluttering these 5 powders, which actually feels amazing. So the last category I have for today is my setting sprays, and I currently have 7 setting sprays. Also, I'm counting these 2 as 1 because it's the same setting spray, it's just a mini size. And I feel like 7's not too bad, but looking at this, there's one I want to get rid of right away. And that is the Too Faced Makeup Insurance 18-hour wear. I just feel like this doesn't really help my makeup stay on at all. And I also just don't like the mister. It just kind of like attacks your face. And it has a really strong coconut scent to it. I just don't enjoy using this product, so I am going to declutter it. Now, the Urban Decay All Nighter Spray, I think is something I will always have in my collection. These are gonna roll. This big one's actually almost empty, and what I do with this baby one is that I use it for travel. Like, this is the perfect travel size setting spray, so I would fill this one into here. This is my favorite setting spray when I want my makeup to last all night. They do have a mattifying version of the setting spray that I really do want to try. So if you've tried the mattifying version, let me know your thoughts, but of course I'm gonna hang on to this and I'll probably repurchase it for the rest of my life. Now, these 2 right here, the Caudalie Beauty Elixir and the Peach and Lily Glass Skin Veil Mist, they're kind of more of like a skincare spray item, I would say. They're not really like a makeup spray, but what I like these for is like if my skin is feeling extra dry before I start my makeup, I'll spray these on. I'll also use this Peach and Lily one to kind of rehydrate my face throughout my makeup look, and I feel like it does a pretty good job at that. I don't really love a lot of Peach and Lily products, but this one I do like. So for those more kind of skincare purposes, I will keep both of these. And honestly, the rest of these 3 I'm going to keep as well. I love this Rare Beauty one, like I said earlier, again for like refreshing my face throughout my makeup. So like for example, I'll put my spot concealer all over my face and then spray this on to kind of rehydrate and help me blend out my concealer better. And I'm getting pretty low on this. It's about to here, so I'm excited to finish this. The Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray. I really don't like the smell of this, but I'm more than halfway done, so I'm just trying to finish it and get through it. It does do a good job at setting my makeup. I do prefer the Urban Decay one if I want more of like an all-nighter kind of thing, but I do feel like this is a nice finishing setting spray. I just hate the smell, so I would not repurchase, but I'm gonna finish it. And then this Pixi Glow Mist, I don't use a lot. I have finished a whole one of this one before, and I still have honestly a lot in this. I don't use it as much anymore because it is a super glowy mist. So maybe if you have like super dry skin and like just powder has made you super dry and you want even more of a glow. So while I don't really use it a lot, I am gonna hang on to it because I do like it for those kind of purposes. So then the only one I'm getting rid of is the Too Faced spray. So these are all the base products that I am keeping that have survived my declutter, and this feels so much more manageable to me. And all of these products right here will be decluttered today, donated if possible, or given to friends. And I got rid of 19 products today, so I feel super good about that. So I hope you guys enjoyed going through this declutter with me. Let me know if you like the style of video. I really like this overhead kind of filming, so let me know your thoughts. I am hoping to declutter and go through all of my lipsticks and just any lip products next, so stay tuned for that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.